Hi Sanyam, am I audible? Hi Sanyam, am I audible? Okay, let's just wait for 2-3 minutes. Okay. Hi guys. So first of all, I would like to say that yeah, I'll be streaming actually daily. I would try to at least. So I let's actually start building it. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, then just post it in the chat. Okay, I'll be answering them as we move through this video. Okay, so actually what we are going to do in this section is we will be developing the group functionality. Okay, so in the group functionality, let me just open the Figma file. Okay, so basically we are going to achieve what we build here in the individual chat. Okay, so just like this we'll be having the same functionality. We'll be having one extra functionality here or to start a new group. So we'll be creating a form for that, and I'll also show you how to actually build a new type of input in this group functionality. So let's see. Yeah, it's actually loading. Okay, yeah, let me see if I can increase the volume. Is it louder now? Okay, so I hope you can see the Figma screen. So actually we'll be creating this type of UI. Okay, in the left side you can see we'll be creating this group. Okay, this left panel. In the right side we have already actually created these components, so we'll be just reusing them. Okay, so when we'll be integrating the backend, then we'll just customize our component and we'll be using the same components here. The only difference here will be this create new group. Okay, and after that we will be creating this dialog box with this form. So I will show you how to actually create this type of input component. Okay, So we'll be creating this using the same library, React hook form. Okay, so I hope this clears, okay, what we are going to build in this video. So let's now start with the code. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is to create a new page. Okay, so let's just go inside this dashboard directory, and then we can create a new group, new page, group.js. Okay, and here I'm just going to create a functional component. Okay, and I'm using this extension. You can also download it. You just need to type RAFC. I'll just put its name after this live stream, okay, in the description. So after we have done this, let's actually set up the route first. Okay, so you can go to the routes directory as usual, and then inside the index.js file, okay, we just need to import it like we have imported the other pages. So let's write it quickly. Okay, so here we just need to actually pass a callback inside this lazy. I've explained this already in the first part, and then we can provide the path. So it's inside pages, then dashboard, and we can then move to group. Okay, so now after we have imported this group page, we can use it inside this block, this slash block. Okay, starting with the slash. So we can add it here. Just we need to define a path for it. So just like we have app, okay, for the main screen, we can keep this slash group for the group screen, and for the element part we can just define it like this. Okay, we have just imported this component group page, we can use it here. Now after we have done this route setup, let's actually visit our app. Okay, and we'll navigate to slash group. Now you can see that we have this group text instead of 404, okay, that we were getting earlier. So that means we have actually set it up our page, okay, and we are ready to begin with the development of this page. Okay, so now going back to the group.js. Okay, so I actually always prefer to wrap every component with this fragment. Okay, because if I'm actually going to write 2 or more components here, okay, then they'll need a parent. Okay, so that's the reason why I always do this, and it's a good practice. Now after this, as you can see in the design, we need to create these two sections, left and right. We have already done this before, so I'm just going to write it here. So we will first need a stack. Okay, this stack is just to group two things. So as I have already explained earlier, whenever we want to actually lay out 2 or more things horizontally or vertically, then we can make use of this stack component from Material UI. And you can see this is already auto imported from Material UI. Okay, and after that we can pass this direction prop. So it's actually visible from this design that we need to align two things in the row. Okay, so we can just pass this row value here, and also we'll need to pass it some styling. Okay, so we want it to take 100% of the available width, so that is why we are going to give this property width 100%. Right, now we can actually make two comments here. First one will be the left and the second one will be right. So this is to basically denote that this stack will contain or group two things, the left side and the right side. Okay, and here we are majorly going to focus on the left side because we have already created the right part. So in this case we are going to actually need to create a box. Okay, so we can use this box component from Material UI for that purpose. Okay, let's just write it here. We need to import it like this, and for the styling we are actually going to give it this height of 100 VH. Okay, we want it to take the 100% or the full height. Okay, and let's also actually give it some background color and some shadow. Okay, so that it's clearly visible here. So for that, let's write this property background color. Okay, and here we are actually going to use theme. Okay, so for that we can use this callback. Okay, I have already actually used this once in this series, so you can just use a callback here. Okay, it will give you theme, but this is only valid inside the SX prop in material UI components. So here we can just write theme dot palette dot mode. Okay, so we'll just check if the mode is light. Okay, then we can use this color white from our theme. Okay, so it is F8 FAFF. Okay, like this. Actually, why we are writing this ternary operator here, because we have not defined this white color in our theme. Okay, and I'll actually explain you how to add this programmatically here. Okay, so that we won't need to write this type of condition here. So we will be doing that when we will be refactoring this app. Okay, so that will be done at the end. Now after we have defined this background color, let's actually see if there is some changes in our app. So I'm just going to refresh it, and it's actually not visible right now, but we can inspect it. Okay, so here we have this MUI stack. Okay, and it should have two children's. Yeah, so we have already actually imported this box here. Okay, and it's actually being rendered. So what we need to define here is its width. So its width is right now 0. So let's actually give it a width of 320. This is the width that we have been using in our app. Okay, and we'll be actually defining it as a constant. So I'll create a new file inside utils for that later. Okay, and let's also give it some box shadow. So we can just use the one defined in our style. Okay, in our Figma file, like basically. So we are using this 002. Okay, and then this black color with 25% opacity. You can actually view this in our Figma file. Okay, I'm just writing it here, this box shadow, and now you can see this box is clearly visible. Okay, and you can also see if we switch theme. Okay, this is working fine. Now we just need to start with this typography. Okay, and before that, let's actually use a stack here again. And why I'm using this, the reason for this is because we need some spacing here. As you can see in the design, we have some white space from left, right, and top, bottom. Okay, so for that we actually need to provide it some padding, and also the other reason is we can provide the padding to box as well, but we need to align few things vertically. So that is why we are going to use this stack. So let's just pass the padding here. Okay, so I'll be giving it 3, and 3 here means 3 times 8 or 24 pixel. Similarly, we can give some spacing here. Okay, so that will be actually the space between, as you can see, between this group and this search bar. So that is called the spacing. Okay, that is the space between the children's of this stack. And also we'll be actually fixing its height. Okay, so we'll define its height, max height, to be 100 vh, and that is because we want its content to be scrollable. Okay, that is why we are defining this max height. Now after we have done this, we are actually going to create it like this. We'll be grouping this typography and this search component inside one stack. Okay, so let's actually do this. So I'll be using this stack component again, and let me also check if there are any comments in the chat. Yeah, so we can continue on with this. Okay, so in this stack, let's first actually use the typography component. Okay, after we have our text on the screen, then we can actually add other properties. So here we just need to render this groups text. Okay, now the one thing that is obviously going to happen is we need to provide some variant, because we need to style it, and we are actually using material UI, so we'll be using this variant property. Okay, so that actually makes our task easier, because we don't have to write repetitive styles. Okay, and now you can see this is looking much nice. Okay, and there is one more thing. After this, let's actually first render our search component. Okay, so for that, again, I'm going to use a stack. Okay, so here we can just define its width to be 100%. So what this is going to do, by default the search component or the this input component is not going to take the full width. Okay, so if the parent's width is full, okay, then the search component will also be taking the full width. And now we have already created this search component. Okay, so you can visit this general app. Okay, and inside that you can find this chats component. Okay, now inside this chats component you can see we have this search component already implemented. So now what we are going to do is, we created these components, okay, style components, but they are defined inside this chats file, and we also need to reuse it inside this groups file. So we are basically going to convert this search icon wrapper, okay, and this style input base component. Okay, we are going to pick all these three. Okay, and we'll be converting these into separate components which we can reuse. So let's actually move inside this components directory. Okay, here I'll be creating a new folder and I'll call it search. Okay, now here we can actually define three files. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to create this index.js file, and let me also explain you one very important thing. We can define all these three components in one file, and okay, and then we can actually export all of these, so that will be named export. Okay, and what we are actually going to do is, we'll be creating three separate files, okay, for each component. Then we'll be exporting these as default from this index.js file. Okay, like grouping them. So let's first create this file search.js. So I'll be using the same name as the component, okay, for the file. So this search. Okay, now we just need to import this styled and alpha, and as you already know from the previous videos, both of these are going to come from the styles module in material UI. So we can just import it. Okay, I'm writing it here because due to some reason my editor just doesn't suggest that module. Okay, now we can just export it from here, export default search, and similarly let's do it for the other two components as well. So I'm just going to cut this, and let's see what its name is, search icon wrapper. So we can create the same component here. Okay, search icon wrapper.js. Now let's actually paste this component. So we are doing all of this so that we can reuse these components. Okay, because we are actually utilizing these in two files, so that will actually make our task easier. Now similarly we can also export this, export default, and the file name or the component name actually search icon wrapper. Okay, and similarly for this style based input, okay, it's actually not getting pasted here. Let me just get it back here. Okay, I'll be just copying it, then move inside this style based input file. Yeah, and now here we actually need to import this input base component as well along with the style, and this input base is going to come from the core package. Okay, material UI's core package, so that will be MUI/material, and the other style is going to come from the styles module. Okay, and the last step is to export it. So we are going to write this default export, and now we just need to actually export all of these from this single file. Okay, so we can just export it like this: export default as. Okay, so we'll be just using the name search, and then we can provide the path that is actually the neighboring file, so search. And similarly we can repeat the statement 2 more times and just change the name here. So in place of search it will be search icon wrapper. Okay, and styled input base. And now inside this stats, let's actually remove these three. Okay, and here we have used them, so I'm just going to get it from the components folder that we just created. So as you can see, we can import it like this. Okay, so this is just a little bit of refactoring. Okay, and we are actually going to do a lot more refactoring later. Okay, and here I'm actually seeing this error, styled input base. So let's see what went wrong. Styled base input. Okay, so then there is a name mismatch. Okay, we are importing this as styled input base here. Okay, and here I just need to change the name, styled input base. Okay, so now the name is changed. Okay, so there won't be any problem. So we can actually reuse this thing. Okay, again let's actually search for it, search icon wrapper. Yeah, we can use this block again. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'm also going to explain what it's actually doing. So let's first import all the required things here: search icon wrapper, and this input base. And we also need to import this magnifying glass. Actually this is just a icon, okay, coming from the Phosphor React library. And now let me actually explain again what this component is doing. So as you can see in the design, we have this outer wrapper. Okay, so this is actually like a box. Okay, so and after that we have this icon button, and there is a input component here. So that is why we have created these three components. Search is basically holding this icon and the input component together. Okay, and this icon wrapper, this is actually placing the icon, okay, absolutely in with respect to the search or the parent component. Okay, and this input base is what is going to provide it the input functionality so that we can type in it. Okay, and we can also actually use all of the properties like on change. Okay, those events will be available here, and we are actually going to use them later. Okay, and after this let's actually visit our app. So we will need to refresh it, okay, because we ran into an error. So that is why we need to refresh it, otherwise it would have appeared, okay, on its own. And now we have this search. So let's actually focus on how we can create this button here. Okay, then this part will be actually pretty easy because we have already done it. Okay, so we will be using the same component again. And now after this let's actually move on to the other stack. Okay, and the reason is pretty clear because we'll be actually again grouping two things, this icon button and this typography horizontally. Okay, so for that we just need to actually start with this typography. Okay, so here we can just write this text, create new group. Let me check if there are any comments. Okay, fine. So after we have written this create new group, okay, we can actually apply some styling to it. So for that I'm just going to write this variant here, and we can provide subtitle 2 variant here. Okay, that is as per our design. And there is one more thing, like we want it to be clickable. Okay, this typography, so we can pass it this prop component. Okay, and we can pass another component here. Okay, which is actually going to come from material UI. Okay, so it will, this typography will be behaving like a link. Okay, if we just write this link here, and link is going to be a component which will be imported from material UI. Sorry for that, we can just write like this. Okay, link from material UI's core package. Now after we have done this, let's save it. Okay, go back to our app and check if we get the desired behavior. And yeah, it is acting like a link. Okay, so we'll be actually linking it with the form that we'll be creating. Okay, and after that we can use this icon button component from material UI. Okay, inside this we can actually render any type of component, but here we are going to just render the plus icon button, and that is going to be imported from Phosphor React library. And in this plus icon we are actually going to provide it this style prop. And here is a catch, we can't provide SX prop here. Okay, because if you do, that is not going to work, since this is not a material UI component. Okay, so you need to remember it, because this happens many of the times, like people will use SX here. Okay, and then they will be wondering why it's not working. Okay, so you have to be aware of that. And here, in order to use this theme, we can't use that callback that I just showed you. Okay, in this file we can't do it like this. Okay, because this is not SX, this is a style. Okay, so this is invalid here, so we have to get this theme in some other way. And we have used the other way as well in this project, and that is to utilize the use theme hook that we get from the material UI. So let's actually use it here, and this is going to come from material UI styles module. Okay, so we need to import it here, import use theme from @MUI/materials/styles. Okay, just like this. And let's now actually see if we get the desired UI. Yeah, but it's not actually aligned in a row, and we can actually fix this because we have used this stack. And you might know, like, the default direction for the stack is column. Okay, that is why these two are coming above, like create new group is vertically above the button. So in order to fix that, we need to just pass this direction prop here. Okay, row. And we can also actually use the justify content property here. Okay, so we can write justify content space between, because we want to align these two components. Okay, at the front and the end. Okay, and now after this we can also pass this property align item center. So this will make sure that the line passing through their center horizontally will align. Okay, and now this is looking much better, as you can see. Now going back to the Figma file, you can see we have to render this divider here. Okay, and that is actually going to be very simple. We can just use a divider component, and this is going to act just like the HR component or the HR tag basically in the HTML. That only difference is that in divider this is a material UI prop, so we can use the SX. This is a this is a component from material UI. Okay, so we can use the SX prop here. And after that, there is just one more thing left in this left bar, and that is to render this pinned groups. Okay, and all groups. And we have already done this before. Okay, so we are just going to utilize what we did in the chats folder, or chats file. Now here you can see we have used this stack. Okay, and for the scrolling functionality we have given this flex grow 1 and overflow scroll. Okay, So what this is actually going to do, it is going to make sure that it will take as much space vertically as it can take, okay, because the direction is column here. And overflow scroll will mean that if the content is greater than the overall height, then it is going to show the scroll effect. And here we have used a simple var style, and it is actually going to work only on Mac OS, okay. In Windows you have to write a CSS file, okay, and in that we can actually target the scroll bar. So many times people have raised this concern that their simple var style is not working, and that is because this is only supported, like this library that we are using is supported on Mac OS, okay. In Windows it doesn't work. So a workaround for that is to use CSS, okay. So let's actually implement the same here. So after, let's actually format it first so that we can actually visualize how we are actually implementing all of this. So inside this left box we have this stack, okay, and we have multiple stacks inside it. So now just after this divider we are going to make use of another stack, okay, like this. And first of all I would like to add the scrolling functionality here. So let's use this sx prop here, then pass this flex grow property, okay. I'll set it to 1. For the overflow behavior we'll set it to scroll. And to be more specific here, we just want overflow or the scroll functionality in the y direction, so we can write overflow by, okay. Otherwise it is going to be overflow scroll in both the directions x and y, okay. So I hope that is clear. Now we can give this height property 100%, and after that we can make use of the simple var style, okay. So again I'm going to use it, and if you are working on Windows machine, okay, then I'll just provide the CSS that you need to write, okay, on the Discord. So if you haven't joined that yet, make sure to join that. The link will be given in the description, okay. And we are also going to provide this prop click on track, okay. This is actually created inside this simple var style. We have already discussed this, okay, in the previous part. So we won't be able to like click on this track, okay. So this is just false, and after this timeout of 500 millisecond is over, then this bars or like this scroll bar will be hidden, okay, automatically. Now after this, as you can see, we have this typography, then we'll be rendering a list, okay. Again there will be a typography and then a list. So for that we can actually plan it like this. We will be using a stack here, okay. Then inside this stack we will be rendering the content typography first, okay, like this. So we can just write the text here pin. After that we can make a comment here that we will be rendering the list of all the pin groups, okay, here. And after that similarly we can follow this again, okay, and this time for all groups, okay. And now after this we can again render the list of all other chats here. So we'll be using the same component here, okay. There is not going to be any change here. So let's just actually copy it from this chats component. So I'm just going to paste it here. Now we can import all these things, okay, that are missing here. So chat list, and as you remember this is going to come from the data folder, okay. We have a index.js file inside this data folder, and it is actually containing all of the fake data that we are just using to build the UI. Now for this chat element we have already created it, okay, and you can see it actually if you go back to the chats component, okay, and if you search for the chat element, then it's actually like you can press Ctrl F or Command F for Mac, okay, and Ctrl F for Windows. Then you can see we have this chat element right inside this file, okay, and we are using it here. So what we actually need to do is we need to reuse it in other files, Okay, so I'm just going to cut it from here, from this chat.js. Okay, then we'll be creating it as a standalone component. Okay, because this is going to be reused. So I'll just create a new file, chat element.js, and then we can just paste it here. Now we'll need to actually import all of these things. So let's start with the MUI components first. Box. Okay, I'll just do it quickly. Then stack. This style badge is, this is a style component. Okay, so we'll have to create it. Let's just import this faker library for now. Okay, then this avatar component. Let me revisit if there are any chats. Yeah, I'll be creating more stack projects. Okay, so make sure to just join the Discord. Okay, because I actually post there updates very frequently. And we can import this typography and then this badge. Okay, so I hope you guys are familiar with Material UI by now. Okay, if you haven't worked with it before, and I actually find it very interesting because it makes the task of developing the UI very simple. Okay, so MUI slash material slash styles. Okay, use theme is also imported. Now there is only one thing left, and that is the styled badge. So let's actually visit here, and you can see we have created this style component inside this chats folder, chats file. So we are just going to cut it here. Okay, and then we can just place it here because this is going to be used only single time inside this chat element. Now for this styled, this is just going to come from the styles module. Okay, let's just paste it there. Now we can just export this as default. Okay, from this file. So export chat default chat element. That's it. Now we can just import it here. Okay, wherever we have used it, element. Yeah, and the problem is solved. Now we can also just remove these import statement which are not in use. Okay, because this is going to give this kind of warning in the terminal otherwise. Okay, so let's just remove these unused imports. I'm going to refactor it, then save this file. Okay, let it compile. Then I'm going to go inside this group.js. Okay, we can just import the chat element. Okay, here as well. Now I'm just going to visit this page again. Okay, let's just refresh it, and now you can see we have just what we created. Okay, now there is one thing that is visible very clearly. We haven't styled this pin and all groups. Okay, and there is also no spacing here. So let me explain how we can do this. So for the pin or the typography here, we just need to provide this variant. Okay, a suitable variant would be subtitle 2 here. So subtitle 2. Okay, and we can actually also give it some color as per our design. So in our Figma design, it is 676 and 7. Okay, so we can just give it this property color, and then this string 67667. That will do the job. And similarly we can implement the same here. So let's just copy it. Okay, and we'll be writing it here in this all groups. So what we can actually do here is we can just render the chat list again, but we are just going to remove this filter. Okay, we'll be inverting it, like we need all those chats which are not pin. Okay, so we can render it like this. If you revisit your app, then we have this scroll functionality. The only weird thing is that we don't have any spacing here. Okay, so let's actually implement that. So I'll be giving a spacing of 2.4 here, or let's just keep it to 2.5. Okay, 2.5. Similarly for this stack. Now you can see there is a spacing between these individual chats. Okay, but there is no spacing between these two sections, pin and all, right? So what we can do, we can provide the spacing to their parent. So here I'm just going to give a spacing of 3. Let it compile. Okay, or we can actually do one thing here, which will be actually pretty simple. We can just move this, okay, inside the same stack like this. That will be much easier. Now we have a very uniform spacing all over. Okay, and it's looking much nice. Now as you can see, we just need to create the right side. Okay, and this right side we will be using the same component that we have used inside this general app. Okay, like there will be a conversation component, okay, which will contain all of the chats. Okay, then all of the profile functionality. Then we created this kind of contact start messages. Okay, so there will be that stuff, and we can actually reuse it. So I'll be actually implementing it later on. So we can just make a comment here to do, okay, implement, or basically reuse conversation components. Okay, so we'll be just reusing them. So when we are going to actually integrate backend, then we'll complete this part. Okay, so I've just made this comment here for now. And let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Okay, so there are no questions in the chat, and I think we have created this. Okay, and we can continue with the group part. Okay, in the next live stream. So I'll be doing it tomorrow. Okay, please make sure to like this and also leave your comment. And if you haven't joined the Discord channel, then make sure to join that as well. I'll be leaving the link in the description box. Thanks for watching. I'll be ending the stream here. See you in the next part.